Let's talk about what I see as the top 5 trends or launches that we're going to see in Q1 2025 in the crypto space. First, we have to start by talking about Ripple. Ripple has had a huge run up, and part of that is that Ripple holders are just a different beast. They skew older, they skew more classic investor. They love to dollar cost average, they buy over time, and they bag hold like nobody's business, creating huge liquidity squeezes. But XRP has always struggled with the concept of programmability. Their hooks concept has been in development for 4 or 5 years now and hasn't quite hit mainnet. But where they've excelled is capturing this real mindshare, the zeitgeist of the mainstream retail audience. And that's something that's really untapped in other sectors of crypto and could be a huge boon to them. Recently, XRP had announced that 2025, their focus is on that programmability, both with the launch of an EVM-compatible sidechain, essentially an L2 that integrates XRP as its main currency and runs EVM smart contracts, and by finally bringing hooks to mainnet. Although the language around that seems to suggest it's a little later in 2025, and we probably see the EVM sidechain first. Given the audience and footprint that Ripple has, and given the entire lack of ecosystem that there is on chain, very few tokens, no real DeFi exposure, no NFT exposure, things like that, there's a lot of pent up demand and interest from a cohort of users who have never had exposure to that set of DeFi primitives and designs. And so I think if we see that programmability launch, we're going to see XRP continue to have an outsized performance in this coming bull market. That said, perhaps even more importantly, what we'll see is an outperformance in its ecosystem. I think especially if we see a world in which hooks are delivered well and outperform the interest and mindshare of those users beyond that of the EVM sidechain, that ecosystem will have its own set of AMMs, money markets, NFT marketplaces that perform, because we can't easily transfer something like Aave or Uniswap over into hooks. Now, XRP has promised obviously hooks for many, many years, programmability for many years, and has gone back and forth on it. And so I think this will be their biggest opportunity, but also one they'll have to seize and execute on. There'll have to be that change in performance for it to actually happen, but it could be huge. Next, we have the TON IAP upgrade. Telegram's TON blockchain went through a bit of a backslide, both with the end of Hamster Combat and with the arrest and subsequent release of their CEO. The collapse of Hamster Combat, that coupled with hamster racing last cycle, has really told us that small rodents are a top signal in any crypto project. If you see a rodent, it's time to sell. But the recent Telegram upgrade introduced this concept of stars, which is an in-app purchase that users can make on Telegram and can be spent in mini apps, chatbots, things like that. What's interesting here is two things. These stars used for both purchases and subscriptions are open to any developer of a mini app, and they can be purchased using Apple Pay or Google Pay. So even if you're a developer who hasn't been approved to list in the iOS App Store because of your integrations with crypto, if you're launching a Telegram mini app that's available on mobile, users can buy stars with iOS's Apple Pay and redeem those in your app, and you get that revenue cut. So this opens up millions of users to these developers that they didn't previously have access to, creating some of the easiest on-ramps into crypto. They also did another smart thing that we don't have a lot of in the crypto space. They integrated direct affiliate programs. So any mini app can create an affiliate program for stars, allowing any influencer to sign up and promote specific purchases in different games, apps, bot experiences. This means in the future, the next iteration of something like a Hamster Combat or a Telegram-based meme coin wallet bot, if it has an upgrade, if it has a premium subscription, people will be able to promote that and get a cut of the revenue that's coming in from those iOS in-app purchases on Telegram. That's a huge loop that both in traditional DeFi through browser-based DeFi with MetaMask we don't have, and that many mobile apps struggle with because the flow of pass-through identification without somebody typing in a user code is not clean on mobile development. So these powerful loops give deep ecosystem access to crypto that it didn't have before, as well as new ways to reach scalable audiences. But all of that value of these really kingmaker product loop is going to be captured by TON. So I think they have a really strong potential to come back from where they were at. The biggest blocker to them will remain the complexity of their smart contract system. It's also likely that 2025 will be that consumer era that we've been looking for so long, because if we get another infrastructure cycle, I think we're all going to scream. With XRP's consumer footprint, the launch of Abstract, a consumer-focused chain by Pudgy Penguins, and with Flow beginning to work with Disney on consumer NFT products and starting to bring some rebirth back to their CryptoKitties project, we're going to see a real focus on what can reach the mainstream user and what can we abstract away the complexities of so that they feel that they're using a Web 2 level app rather than some complicated Web 3 DeFi. Personally, I think that some of the best ways to get exposure to all this will be things like farming the Abstract airdrop, playing the new CryptoKitties Telegram game for Flow prizes and their upcoming egg drop, which will likely be a large part of the new ecosystem. And on Abstract and XRP, you're probably looking for some early DeFi players that will take off initially. But I think it's really spending the time to hunt for those programs that will make sense to mainstream users. A great example of that might be Beezie's NFT marketplace that's recently launched on Flow and is already available on Blast, where they have NFT vaulted collectibles. These are your Pokemon cards or sneakers or old VHS tapes, consumer collectibles sitting in vaults, managed by Brinks and secured by an NFT. This almost eBay-like experience is something that consumers can really understand. And as they begin to add gamified features and integrate closely with Flow's consumer onboarding and payment methods, I think that's a great opportunity to see what can we bring to that mainstream. What will the normies be able to understand? And if normies can understand it and buy into it, it can capture some of this long-term value and not be selling to 15 of us who spend too much time online in DeFi. Next up is this idea of revenue distribution. I think with the incoming administration, we're going to see much more lax policy, but also just emboldened policy, especially from international players, where they are going to walk right up to that line and maybe even tiptoe across it in ways that are less complicated, easier to market, easier to sell. And I think one of the big ones is going to be revenue sharing through tokens. Something that's always kind of been done through complex buybacks and staking and systems that are complicated and hard to explain to a consumer audience. So I think a lot of these well-capitalized DeFi projects that do have recurrent revenue streams who aren't issuing new amounts of their token as marketing campaigns and diluting themselves currently, those are going to be good opportunities for them to both expand any revenue sharing programs they have, but also start new ones to really cement their place and push back competitors. Because why would you go to any of these other tokens who aren't sharing revenue or don't have the level of revenue to share? I think projects like Aave, Balancer, Instadapps Fluid are all great examples of this, where they have that organic use, they have good capitalization, they've been around for a while, and they can begin to share that revenue in more forward, clear ways that are going to attract consumers and turn these consumers into loyalists and advocates long term. I think also projects that don't have a token, like MetaMask, if they ever get off their ass and launch one, can start to share some of that swap revenue and can begin to push back against the fact that they're seeing a lot of churn as we get more and more competitive in the wallet space. And that would be a great opportunity for them to reclaim some of that lost ground. And lastly, the most controversial coin flip one is NFT rebirths in OpenSea. With OpenSea 2.0 around the corner, there is this opportunity, there's this moment that could be seized to see a broad NFT rebirth, especially when we time that with the launch of Abstract and the importance of NFTs to their ecosystem. That said, this all assumes that OpenSea is going to get this right and not fumble the bag, which has not been their track record. What we need to see them do is get their airdrop right, have the right structure for the points farming, and to have the airdrop apply retroactively. They cannot scorn that wealthy, established user base in favor of current users, which are basically non-existent. But if they do that, if they nail it, if they manage to bring back users into that space and provide value to that token, and that token vests over time or vests with volume, then I think their NFT farming program could be a broad rebirth across the ecosystem. And with most NFT projects either massively down from their all-time highs or just entirely dead, it actually represents a good opportunity for large multiple values in return. Now, there's a lot of speculation in how you play this. And my best guess and what I'm comfortable with in a risk perspective is this two-pronged approach. While you could go out and bet on new NFT projects, there's too much risk there. But there are these established projects where we have two buckets. We have the bucket of ones who still exist, but they're massively off their all-time highs. Doodles, Moonbirds, Sappy Seals, Cool Cats, things like that. These were popular ones. They still have a community. They're still doing things. They can be popular again, and they are likely the kind of users that OpenSea wants to activate. Then we have things that were popular and gained a large user base initially, but are completely dead. There's no communities left. They're bottom barrel prices. That's your Froyo Cats, your Loot Explorers, your Crypto Kitties, and about 500 other things with these floor prices that are pennies on the dollar. Anything that was that cheap and had a user base and they now feel scorned, but they may still exist in different pockets there, could be a very interesting group to reactivate. And this is something that I said when we talked about the Pengu airdrop by Pudgy Penguins. What groups are they going to reactivate in NFTs? Going after those scorned users could be interesting. But the level of cost to buy in and take that risk, even if there's a low chance of those products being selected for an airdrop or gaining new value, the low cost of them makes them attractive to take that kind of gamble. What you're hoping for here is that these projects either organically find new life as people are looking for, hey, what things can I pump into and get a community return in the NFT space? Or what projects is OpenSea specifically going to add points farming on because they want to attract back that users? And we also double up the value on that risk because these projects could be eligible for that Pengu airdrop from Pudgy Penguins. They could be eligible for an Abstract airdrop, or if Abstract launches their own NFT marketplace and that has an airdrop, especially because some of the builders in that ecosystem came from Frame, which was specifically going to be an NFT focused L2. So that's a much riskier play because you could end up with these illiquid assets that, while they're cute pictures, may not be worth anything if they don't have the communities behind them. So it's probably worth taking a balanced approach, if anything, and really evaluating where you think that value will be, making sure you're buying things that you're okay with bag holding if you miss out, and that the diversity of that pool of assets has the potential to make a return multiple to cover any of the losses in that. Otherwise, you want to sit back, wait for your retroactive airdrop, and see how that market shapes up before you get into the farming. But the advantage of buying now and trying to bring down that overall cost point on the farming means that you can be more competitive on your margin, because at least what we saw with Blur, you had to list within a certain percentage of the floor. And if you can't do that in a way where it's above your cost point, you're going to get absolutely wrecked while farming. So it's a gamble because, once again, you're betting on the OpenSea team, which hasn't shown the best track history of being in tune with their users. But that might change. And if it does change, the level of multiple here, the level of potential return here, because of how down bad the entire NFT market is quite significant. So those are the top 5 events that I see playing out in Q1 2025. Drop a comment below if you think there's something that I've missed, if you think there's another big event or big launch coming up that will be easy for you to farm or participate in or get an easy return multiple on. I know there's a number of big chain projects launching, and we can talk about those too, but when they're launching already at billion-dollar valuations, multi-billion-dollar valuations, it's a lot harder to participate in that early on. But hey, if there's something I missed or should deep dive into, drop it in the comments below. And as always, like and subscribe to make sure that you get the latest in both crypto news and launches, as well as traditional finance and investing.